Hi folks, in today's video we're going to be looking at making some shelving units for a display, and we've got quite a few to make. It's already lunchtime. We've got all the materials here, so let's make a start. So this was the ideal project to cut my teeth on the new track saw and put it to work. This is a little project that came up. This is building a load of shelving units for my cousin and her basket business that she was exhibiting at a festival recently and needed these for her stall. You see, I bought these pretty budget tracks in error really. There are quality control issues there as well, and they just wouldn't join square, and I was having real problems. The ends of the actual aluminium are not cut square, but as you'll see later on in the video, I actually gave up and used them individually, and I'll probably hold out and get a long 3-meter Festool or Makita length in the future. So the plan here is to get 2 units out of each sheet of OSB. These aren't going to be painted or anything fancy. They're kind of going for the bare and simple look, and that suited me because it was even quicker for me to do, bearing in mind I only had a day to do these. Now the aim is to get 2 pairs of sides out of each half, so i.e. 4 angled sides out of each full sheet. And because these are imperial sheets, there's a bit of trimming to do, but each section is 400, tapering up to 200 at the top. Next job is to bring over a couple of sheets at a time and cut them to the height. The height was 1800, so kind of head height, which was just low enough to fit inside the small tent marquee that they had. Oh, just in time. The rain started heavy. So I tried to make a prototype at the end of my first half day. Bearing in mind I had to make 5 or 6 of these, I wanted to make sure it was going to work. So in the workshop here, I'm cutting the first piece down into 2 angled sections. They should then match up and be ready to sort out the shelving slots that I'm going to make. Now I used a similar method when I built the cabinet for Joe's craft room. Now those were just slots for the shelving, whereas these will actually be kind of like a through tenon. There'll be slots where the shelf goes through, and the aim was originally to peg those. So the next day it's back outside with the track saw, and I've decided to switch back to just using half sections because it just wasn't cutting straight with that wonky join. Now the nice thing is you've got the riving knife on these Festools, so you can drop that in, slide the track along, and you know you're going to be in the right place. So that worked quite well, and you're getting an idea of the side shape and profile of the units now. So I cut all of the pairs, made sure everything was matching, and then we can move on to the dusty work with the router. Now these are the shelves made from the offcuts of each sheet, and they just have a little tenon type shape on the end to go through the slots. So I cut those out with the jigsaw, which is perfectly accurate enough for this. Of course, you could clamp a load together and use them on the table saw sled or anything like that. There's lots of options, but this was accurate enough for what we needed. And this is kind of the trial fit, really. I did do a smaller prototype in the workshop, but this is the first full-size one. Now these are a really tight fit by using that 18mm router bit, and while there is a little bit of wobble, these are such lightweight products that are going on here. It's pretty much the same as just having a wooden step ladder. It's that sort of sideways racking, which of course can be prevented by putting a back or some diagonal bracing on the back. So with the prototype signed off, it was time to batch out the rest. So the spacings of the shelves, I used a template from the first one, and this is the little jig I made a few years back, and it's simply just a slot with I've put 2 rails on there for the router to slide between, but really it's just a way of getting straight cuts with that 18mm plunged down, so it will go all the way through, and I do it in several passes. It's just a budget bit here, and it's just a little bit at a time, and it soon flies through it all, and you end up of course with a little rounded end to each slot, but it wasn't really that visible when you slotted it together, but if you needed to, you could square that off after. And you can see I'm using these little spring clamps on the end there as a stop, because each slot diminishes down. There's 4 slots getting smaller and smaller. I just moved those clamps in. And because these are going on a grass pitch where the marquee will be, I just made sure that it wasn't completely flat on the bottom, so they've got more of a foot design just to take out any likely wobbles there might be. And then it was construction time, and pretty much everything went to plan here, and it was at this point that I was going to start using those wedges to kind of wedge in on that through tenon to tighten it all up, but it just really didn't need it for this application. It just would have been a bit over the top, but it would be a good addition for the future, or if you're doing more of a designy furniture one for inside the house. And this is just a shorter unit made up again from the rest of the sheets, and this will be in the middle. I think they were going to use it in the middle of the marquee for people to walk around. My final job the next morning was to pick up some slightly thinner OSB, and while it was just a canvas tented marquee, they wanted more of a frontage to it, so they asked could I create like an archway and a signage really that could be painted by a friend who is an artist. You can see us using a little bit of tile trim here to create that curve, and then I basically made a little instructional video of everything that was needed to put it together, because I wasn't going to be there. I wasn't even in the country at the time that they needed to put it all up, so I needed to make it as simple as possible, and I think it all worked it out.